New Haven, and welcome back to another episode of Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. I'm your host, Lucy Gellman, and I am so excited to be here today talking about Alliance Speaks, running currently at Creative Arts Workshop on Audubon Street. And I'm going to kick it right off with, so we have artists with us today. We have a curator who is also an artist, our beloved Shaunda Holloway, with us today as well. Um, Shaunda, I want to bring it to you first, and then I'll bring in these two wonderful artists who are with us. Can you tell listeners a little bit about your vision behind Alliance Speaks and your work with Creative Arts Workshop? Because this is not the first time that you have collaborated with them on an exhibition.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. So Alliance Speaks was born out of somebody saying, I want to do an exhibition for Black History Month, and then saying, I don't want to do it. And so they reached out to me and asked if CAW asked if I would be willing to curate a show. And it didn't take long to think about it, so I agreed. And so I had to conceptualize the show, like what is it that I want to say, and what is it that I would like artists to, I don't know, to be able to express. And so with, the chronic erasure of Black culture worldwide. This was definitely an opportunity for that issue to be addressed, but then also any other thing that the artist felt was important to them. And so this is pretty much how it came to be. And I didn't set out with a set number of artists, but I have to say it's like 20 something artists in it. So a lot of different artists. Um, one based in one in Berlin rather, one in Georgia, New Jersey, and throughout Connecticut. So I was really excited about being able to bring together um, artists from different backgrounds, and then also um, having the space to do that, right? Because, you know, I knew that I could do, like, the first floor would be covered, but the second floor was like, wow. It was like, all right, this is a feat to be able to, um, curate the first floor and the second floor.
But
And
there's art everywhere. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there was amazing artists to pull from, and then also, there's so many artists. There was, unfortunately, you can't take in all of the works, but you put it together, well, come together like a puzzle. And so each piece has to be able to stand on its own, and then also coordinate with the other art. It has to integrate. And the thing that I am proud of, which I think is kind of hilarious though, people have been asking me, you know, did one artist do this? And you got to be a bad mamma jamma to have done all of that. But it says to me that the pieces speak to each other, which is, you know, as a curator, what you want. You want individuality, but you also want to show that's cohesive. So, yeah.
I feel like so I'm gonna just toss this out there, and I would love for either of the artists, so Edjohnetta Miller or Yinka Ogunlowo, to just hop in.
Okay.
Um, because one thing that I love about this is I actually walked in, and um the first time I saw it, and I have to go back because like there's so much to digest. Um, I did not think it was a single artist, but I loved the number of voices. And I think you have, I don't know this for a fact now, but like every artistic media. I mean, I really think like there's printmaking, there's photography, there's both like DSLR photography and old school photography from, there's one beautiful photo on the first floor, I think from either the late 80s or the early 90s in New York. Um, you have sculpture, and you also have artists at different points in their careers, which I love. So I'm just going to toss this question out there, for the artists. Um, Tell me about getting involved in this show and the messages that you were excited to communicate with your work.
Well, with Chandra, you don't say no. Okay.
This is true. This is so
Yeah,
true.
no, you never say no. When she called me and said, Miss Ed, I have an idea, and she started talking about it, I was just so, how can I say it? I was mesmerized by it and started to do some research. And and I thought about it and I said, for generations, our stories have been told by people in power. And so often, someone like me is silenced. And I have a lot of lived experiences. I wanted to do a piece that honored the lions in my life, um, those with courage, resilience, and truth. They deserve to be seen and remembered and shared. And we want to tell our stories. So I thought that this was just a wonderful way of me being able to express myself as the lion, to tell my stories, and to be able to tell stories that probably relate to so many different people throughout the United States. So yes, I said yes to it because I thought the concept was absolutely what we need right now in this America.
And I should also say before, so I want to hop to Yinka as well, but I should also say your medium is primarily quilting.
Quilting, yes.
And that has a very rich, beautiful, and I think you're absolutely right, overlooked within the dominant narrative, um, history, especially within Black history and culture.
Yes.
And so when you are working, do you feel like you're connected to hundreds of years, like there's something very specific about the act of quilting and
Yes.
the hands that go into it. Do you feel like you're connecting with your ancestors?
Oh, I'm definitely connecting with my ancestors. My ancestors are always around me. Matter of fact, I'm in my studio and I'm talking, and my daughter is saying, "Who are you talking to?" Okay, because I I come from a line of quilters, um, Aunt Dora, um, Liza May, people who did them as functional pieces. Okay, something to keep you warm during the night, but they were absolutely incredibly beautiful. I was fortunate enough to keep some of my great grandmother's tops that she made, and I've incorporated some of the pieces that are still remaining into my quilts so that my ancestors mean so much to me. And I go out and I teach, I talk to young people about preserving this wonderful skill of quilting. I teach it, I talk about it, I tell stories in my quilts. Yes, my ancestors are around me all the time, always there, pushing me, believing in me, and saying, Edjohnetta, continue on telling our story.
Um, I have so much that I want to unpack there, but I also want to bring in the other wonderful voice in this conversation. So, Yinka, welcome, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for
Greatly
joining us.
appreciated.
So I will say New Haveners who read Midbrow, which is the arts arm of the New Haven Independent, they may not even know that they know your work, but they do, because I believe that it opens Brian Slatter, or he was like right out the gate, first day the show was up, wrote an article about it. And so I would love to talk to you about your work, and what informs your craft when you sit down to paint.
All right. So your first question, just in regards to being a part of this wonderful exhibit. I'm not from the New Haven here area. but Shaunda came across my work online and sent me a message with the information about it. This isn't the first time my work has been featured in, any type of an exhibit. I've been an artist my entire life, come from a family of artists, but this is the first time in my life that I'm actually pursuing it in this manner. And so, yeah, I submitted, and like Miss Miller, stated, just the title of it, The Lion Speaks. When I thought about the work that I had that I could submit, for it. Just the first thing that came to mind was the pieces that I've created that just had the presence of women in it. And, just because, when I think about the voices that sort of need to be heard or sometimes get silenced, even within our community, it's, oftentimes the most powerful voice, right? And for me, that was the maternal figure. And so in the pieces that I submitted and the one that Brian spoke about, it's a reflection of my first experience, some of my earliest experiences with, motherhood and who sort of raised me as a young cub, and just the protection, the warmth, and the security that came about it. And so that image of the African mother with her child wrapped around her is very symbolic in our culture and in many African cultures of that presence of the mother within the home. And so the work is done on Ankara fabric, which is how I create a lot of my pieces now. And it's, just, a way to be able to sort of pay homage and show, my heritage in a way. And, I believe that although there's differences in African nations, one thing that does tie us often is the attire, where you can see someone dressed in it and not necessarily know what nation that they're from. And I also believe that throughout history, our people have been spread apart or spread around in different parts of the world, especially through the transatlantic slave trade. But if I can create stories and tell stories on the fabric, I believe that it can, sort of create a unity and a conversation around, the roots of our people. And so that's my biggest inspiration in utilizing the fabric to create.
Shaunda, I see you smiling over there, and so I want you to hop in because yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just overwhelmed. To be honest, I'm completely overwhelmed because, me personally as an artist, I work with fabric, and to be sitting here with Yinka and Miss Ed, it's just like it's a dream, And what they convey is everything that the exhibit is about to me. And like I said, the combination of all the different styles and mediums is, it is a really wonderful opportunity. And what I'm also grateful for is that there was, first of all, CAW created this space to, make room for this exhibition. And each piece has room to breathe. And I think that to me is one of the things that I'm most proud of about this, because you can look at Miss Ed's piece and there's nothing that where you're like, oh goodness, I can't really see this because this is blocking whatever. And the same thing with Yinka's pieces and everyone's pieces. Every piece has its own space to shine. And if I had taken in any more art, that might not have happened. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And also what I'm grateful for is the power of art as a whole. And so during the reception, I found myself like kind of like walking around the gallery, taking care of things. But in the midst, I sort of like became invisible, and I was just watching everybody interacting, and there was all these little conversations going on, and I just thought like, wow, it was just incredible to see people connecting with one another, connecting with the artwork. I mean, everyone was really like engrossed in the work and connecting with one another. And there were times where I was introducing people and they were like, we already met. So, this project as a whole, I hope will create lasting ties, you know, from artist to artist, artist to community. And yeah, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. Yeah. And
Yeah,
thank you for taking the time.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if I can comment on that, I mean, I didn't know what to expect, honestly, and I mean, I just really, really to see the other work, to see Miss Miller's work, to see the sculptures. I mean, I just to have my work in the company of the kind of work that was in there. And I go to exhibits often. It's when I go on my artist date, as it's recommended in this great book that I've read.
The
And so
artist way.
yes, the other's way. Yep.
Yes, definitely.
And so I go to exhibit. So just to see like just the work and to see, and like you said, from the different mediums and to have my work amongst that, just, really, 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 it's an honor, to be honest. And so just really, commend the organization, like you said, for hosting it, but also Shaunda for just having the eye and just knowing the cohesiveness between all the pieces. I think is just it's noteworthy.
Mhm. Well,
Thank
she did
you.
a great job and
Thank
dealing
you.
with a lot of different personalities and a lot of, well, I'm not sure, and then dealing with me being sick. But I think that she did a fantastic job.
Thank
And
you.
I think that this is an exhibition that needs to evolve and keep on
Mm,
growing and keep on
mm,
growing. It's not,
yeah.
it needs to be in all different areas of
Mm,
Connecticut, New York.
mm-hmm,
Whatever. It's a historical exhibition. And
mm-hmm.
by telling our own stories through art, words, shared memories, we reclaim our voice,
Absolutely.
identity, and the truth. And I think you did that. You made that happen.
Thank you.
You made a
Thank you.
magical moment happen. And I honor you for that.
Thank
I
you.
honor
Likewise, likewise,
Yes.
likewise. I also want to say, this is the second exhibit where Miss Ed and I work together. And I want to say that Miss Ed, from afar, has been a teacher for me in that when she is in a show, she's ahead of the game, you know?
Oh,
And what I mean by that, she's like the first person to drop her work off. It is packaged to the 10th power. And in the packaging, something you look at the package and you say, this artist cares about her work, and you better too. It's a lesson. It's a lesson for me about how I show up in the world, how I present my art. You know what I mean? And just to have it, you know, like why wait? If you can
mhm.
get it there, get it there. Package it well, have all your information. I mean, Miss Ed is a curator's dream with how she shows up. And she's a teacher for me,
Oh,
to
thank you.
to go the extra mile. I mean, even in terms of like, the term they say, understanding the assignment, the piece had the word lion in it. And it was so authentic. It wasn't contrived. She wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna just add this because it's in the title. No. Not only did the word lion was the word lion in the piece, but it also the imagery itself spoke to the theme. And this is for me, it's the next time I submit to something, I'll be walking in those footsteps. So
Wonderful.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Really,
you.
really and truly. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It was an honor, an absolute honor.
Likewise,
Yes.
likewise, likewise.
Yes.
I want to, Ms. Miller, one thing that you said is the word reclaim.
Mhm.
I want to talk about the power of reclamation of narratives, and also the fact that one thing that I found very moving about this exhibition, and Shaunda, we have spoken about this, is artists, especially Black artists, are often expected to, if they are showing art, there's like a really uncomfortable and upsetting premium placed on Black trauma, often in spaces. And I love that this show has room for that for people who need to carry their trauma and their grief and also share that weight. But there is so much joy in this show as
Yes.
well. And so, in the reclamation of narratives, I would love to hear a little bit more about your own process, and the selection of the work. You know, we heard a little bit about this from Yinka, the selection of the work for this show. And also, like, do you feel like your works call out to you a little bit? Like, is it a dialogue?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I always want to tell a story. I'm always telling a story. Um, it could be about my life and what I'm passionate about. Um, when I saw the title or the proverb, I said, this is hot. I said, I like this. I like this. I like the idea of speaking. It was speaking to me. It felt like it was going to preserve my history. And what I wanted to do was to design a piece that absolutely spoke to me. It took me weeks now. I sat there for a while, and I think I emailed Shaunda several times, and saying, well, I'm not sure. I'm getting a little bit kind of confused, and I want to do, maybe I'm overthinking it because a lot of times I do overthink things. But I like my quilts to tell a story, tell a story about resilience, about hope, about moving forward, never really looking back. Um, I really felt as though this was going to be a powerful, powerful exhibition with many, many stories to tell that can be very, very meaningful for so many different people. So what I try and do is I tell stories. I'm in several Smithsonian museums in their permanent collection, and all of my quilts tell stories, a lot about my life as a Black woman, struggling artist. It's still there. I've got a lot of wonderful recognition, but also I've got a lot of people who really don't understand what I'm all about because I come out and I tell the truth. You understand?
Right.
I am not holding back. And if I have to tell you something that makes you uncomfortable, so be it.
Right.
That's what I have to do. So I'm always trying to tell a story. I'm trying to make people listen. And maybe it'll spark something and say, okay, she said such and such. Let me go back and do some research on that. But I want to share my life. I want to share my work, my knowledge. And if I can make that light bulb come on in your little mind, I know I've done my job.
Absolutely.
I know I've done it. So it's important. It's important for me to share. It's absolutely important for me to share and tell my story. I'm the lion. I want to talk about Edjohnetta Miller and her life.
Yes, and I should say the proverb that you mentioned is until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter.
Exactly.
Shaunda, if my understanding is correct, that's what originally inspired you when you were really thinking about the framing of the
Absolutely.
show.
Absolutely. 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 And
Mhm.
I just want to say, and then I'll let Yinka chime in.
Please, yes.
But when you speak of joy, there were so many pieces in there that you know, gave joy, that expressed joy. But Yinka in particular, the woman, hold with the baby on her back, I mean, when you look at it, it's just this happiness that you feel. And, I really wanted to be honest, right? So I wasn't going to bypass the grief, but I couldn't have that be uh the totality of the story because there are many stories, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when you look at Linda Mickens' work and you see the shoes and the woman holding the shoes, I believe it's shoes, but you feel that grief, but it's so beautiful that you know what I mean? You don't tire looking at it, but it is another aspect of the story. You know, you have Sherry Caldwell, you know, her painting where the hand, you know, people are reaching up. And so, you know, there's this cliche stereotypes about African Americans not helping one another or Black people, period, not helping one another. But Sherry's piece is just like, it begs to differ, you know,
Yes.
because you know, the reaching down and grabbing, you know, someone up, it's there. So I wanted to basically, um, the intent of the exhibition was to tell multiple stories, you know, and there's just not one story. There's different stories. And you know, you have this couple of paintings of the human heart, you know, and I mean, stories they reside in the heart, you know. So there was just such a wide range of different stories, you know, that um if I had the means, I would have a piece from every artist. You know what I mean? I would have a piece from each and every one of these artists, you know. That's how powerful the work is, you know. Um, yeah, but as far as joy is concerned, you know, it is something that it's important to express, but things have to be expressed equally. It can't be a joyathon. I mean, if you can if that's what you're aiming for, but it can't be super sorrowful. So a sense of balance, you know? Yeah,
Mhm.
that was the goal. But
And
Yinka, you want to chime in on your that painting because I can think about that painting, you're the mother and child with my eyes closed and I can see it. You know, I could see it. It makes you feel joy just thinking about it. It's like a permanent impression, you
and
know, in your mind.
she's looking right at us.
Yes, 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 definitely.
She like I love so much about it, but I love that of course there's a cultural specificity to it, but it
Hmm.
is also so deeply human. Like I saw her, I have a toddler, and I was like, I know you're tired
Hmm.
and you're happy, and like you live in the mess and the chaos and the beauty of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's get into it. Talk about that piece.
So, yeah, I mean, I say this that there would be no history, in my opinion, but definitely no Black history without the Black woman, right? And without the mother. And so, it was an easy choice to submit something like that for Black history because of that belief. And, again, like it's just, that to me is definitely one of the most personal pieces that I've made because, my mother is she's no longer with us, and there's not a day goes by that I don't think about her and I miss her and appreciate her. And so it's just when I was submitting for this and knew that it was an opportunity for me to be in the first exhibit that I'd be in, there was no way that I wasn't going to include that piece, in there. And yeah, like I said, just the choice of utilizing the fabrics, it's just true to me, but I also feel like it's true to all people of color, and at least should be, right? There's a lot in the choice of it. For example, just growing up, right? There, and I believe, systemically and historically, it's been done in terms of creating this divide between those of us who are second generation immigrants and, African Americans, so to speak, right? And so, even wearing African attire when we were young often was met with scrutiny and also, and criticism, and just, not really met with favoritism in our own communities. fast forward to now where you can see, people who, don't have that lineage, wearing the garments, and now it's just source of beauty along with our cuisine, along with our music. And so to have lived through the evolution of that, I think it's
Absolutely.
just something to be celebrated because it essentially is combating something that systemically was done in terms of creating that divide. Now you see there's trips that are being done to Africa on a regular basis in groups and things of that nature. And so Malcolm spoke about it in his book, right, about how important, in his autobiography, about how important that is. And so when I do put out that kind of work and I do see the attention that it gets, and including the other piece in there of the black woman who is posing in just that one is entitled Didaro, which means elegance. And that's the first one I did on Amplify, the first one of that scale. And it was just to pay homage to the black woman who, has had to deal with so much, throughout the history, especially in this country. And so, yeah, both those pieces, it just really, when I think about celebrating Black history, especially now, to me, I think a big part of that is celebrating the Black woman, and that's what both of those pieces were intended to do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I think we're also in this moment that is it feels like there was momentum and is still there is still momentum. I really believe that like there are more people who believe in things like human rights and a thriving arts landscape than the current occupant of the White House, who I'm not going to say that name. Um, but sometimes we are in a moment that feel like it feels very anti-DEI. It feels like going backwards in a lot of ways. Um, and I'm curious, especially Miss Miller, because you said, what did you, like the reality of also being a struggling artist.
Mm-hmm.
I think people sometimes assume like, oh, if your work's in the Smithsonian, you're doing
No.
fine. And that's no, it's not the reality. It's like people assume that businesses were fine during COVID and
Yeah.
a lot of them closed because even if you have made it,
Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't mean most of the time that you're a millionaire
No.
or even a like tens of thousands in nair or
No. No. No.
um like the equation of financial stability with uh some artistic success is interesting and often incorrect. And so, also how can people coming to this show, um, obviously if they have resources, like anyone listening to this, y'all, if you have resources, buy art, buy local
Mm-hmm.
artists, do not buy stuff generated by AI. Like, please, I beg of you. And don't buy stuff at IKEA.
Yeah.
Find local artists in your community, find art that speaks to you and buy it. But also, how can folks champion and amplify this work? And make sure that artists are also getting their flowers while they're here.
Well, Chandra did it. I mean, there are a lot of Chandras out there. What you have to do is promote it. People have to see what you do. You can't be just, in a vacuum and just, okay, so I'll have this one exhibition and then nothing for the rest of the year. We've got to keep it going. We got to keep the movement going. It's so important for us to realize that there are so many of us out there that are doing amazing work. And I just had somebody come to my house today, which was really interesting. And she said, my daughter's an artist as well. And my daughter does design ties. And she came to get a tie. And she said, you know what? She looked at the tie and she said, this is so beautiful. So why would people go to like a Saks Fifth Avenue and buy something for $800, and you can buy this beautiful tie here that is hand designed for X amount of dollars. And, it's just crazy. She's, let us appreciate who we have. Let us
Exactly.
showcase our artists. Let us buy from our artists while they are alive and can smell the roses. Okay. It's so
Exactly.
very, very important for us to share our art with one another and to buy from one another instead of
Absolutely.
going outside and buying this crap that's out there. And you've got these beautiful artists that are doing this amazing work. They're right here. They're right here.
Exactly. Exactly.
For me, I think part of what is the work that's going to be necessary, especially for our community, because that piggybacks on that, right? In terms of us supporting each other. So from the art perspective, is also educating our people on the value and the possibilities that come with investing in art and investing in creators and thinking about what our racial counterparts do when it comes to the investing in art, right? How, just simply coming together to invest in a person raises the value of that person. And so essentially, whatever is acquired, you know, becomes an asset, right? And because something that gets passed down from a generational standpoint, right? So getting them to understand how art plays a part in that, right? And then I think the other aspect of it, and just for me in terms of the work, I'm working on my first solo exhibit right now, and you mentioned something about DI, and I think that goes alongside what's happening in terms of the educational component, right? In terms of Black history and how it was scarce as it was, and then now in so many parts of the country, books and certain lessons are being sort of taken away. So my goal is to use my art moving forward, especially with this exhibit I'm working on, to teach Black history through art. And so I say that to say that my goal with it also is to inspire young artists, because that is my target audience initially with that, or primarily with the exhibit, because I do believe that art is a part of how we're going to be able to let the future generations know about the experiences that we are experiencing like now, right? Art is able to tell stories in that manner. And so for those, right, who may not be able to put it down in books and put it down in things, that's an added component to invest in art that tells stories, so that it passes on your 2 generations from now. Like that art is the story behind it is able to tell the history that may not be in text according to what we're seeing take place. So there's importance in investing in art from those 2 factors for me, right? From an investment standpoint, from an asset standpoint, and what that does when the community galvanizes around the artists that are pouring their heart and being passionate about it, and then also looking at it as art that becomes a tool for teaching and carrying the history on in the way that art has always done for us.
Also, I just want to shout out, you said so much there, but I also want to shout out, you mentioned and then you just kept going, you have a solo show.
It's well, it's in the works. It's in the works. I'm on the 8th piece. That's actually what you see behind there. 8 out of 14, and so the exhibit is entitled Heroes. So he dash rose, unfolding the stories of unsung heroes, and starting off with a select amount of Black men, not just from America but throughout the globe, that have contributed in just amazing ways. And the goal is to over time just build and add more heroes to it. But yeah, it's something I'm really really excited about. And the main motivation behind it is to sort of combat what I'm seeing is happening. I'm an educator by trade, so it comes easy to think about using art as a tool to teach, but also to inspire. And all the pieces are done on the Ankara fabrics, on the fabrics, and the fabrics for each fabric is meticulously and particularly selected based off of the story behind each hero. So the color palette and all that is selected based off of the hero. So it's a part of the story within itself. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
As you should be. Yeah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, so I have a question just about like dreamy dreams, right? But Miss Miller, I want to ask about this quilt behind it. It's like so stunning that it's distracting me.
Yeah, a few times
But
I move on, try to
that's a
see it,
good thing, right? It's a good problem. But
Mhm.
the vibrancy of the foliage. I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about it.
Now, which one are you talking? In my house?
Behind you?
In your but right behind you. So it's like really vibrant. There's foliage.
Oh, okay. That's not one of that is a quilt. I work with a group in South America, and this is a group of women who have a collective in South America. And what I do, I send them fabric, all my fabric scraps. And this is a quilt that they designed for me. And what it is of their village, um, and people playing in their village. Yes, so I work with a lot of cooperatives throughout the world. I was a envoy from the United States to Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, and then I work with this group in South America. Women who have been displaced and who have to have an income, and with tourism, they make very small pieces that they sell so that they can survive. We are struggling all over, and so
Well,
I send them fabrics throughout the year so that they can keep on creating.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
I also love that there's a real connection there. I
Oh, yeah.
think not just that I sound like such a curmudgeonly old lady, but like I think a lot of people have the artifice of connection now because they're like, oh, I saw my friend who I haven't talked to for 20 years over Instagram. I saw that they celebrated their kid's birthday and I didn't really talk to them. And you're talking to these communities, you're working with these communities, and I just think that's very beautiful. And we need to be doing more of that, right?
Oh, we have to. We have to reach out. We have to. When I found out about this particular group, um, someone came to me and was talking to me about them, and I said, "Well, you know what? I have so much fabric. I mean, I want to share. I want to
Mm-hmm.
share. I want to give to them because I heard what they were trying to do. They were trying to survive in a very, very dark place. And so I got a chance about 2 years ago to go to Maine. There was a big conference that the Smithsonian had, and this particular group, two of the folks that I've been sending fabric to who I had never met face to face, I got a chance to meet. And it was so wonderful and rewarding for me to get to actually hug them and to thank them for the piece that they sent me. But that's what we need to be about. We need to be about sharing. We need to be about
Absolutely.
giving back. We need to be, I go into schools. People ask me all the time, Edjohnetta, you go over and you're teaching little fourth and fifth graders. Yeah, fourth and fifth graders, high schoolers, they need to know our history. I will
Mm-hmm.
never, as long as I am able to get up and walk with this cane, I'm going to be going into those schools and teaching my history. I
That's
have to
right.
give back. I must give back. And if it's
That's right.
universal, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
That's it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So important. So important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
ever forget. I don't want to ever forget the struggle.
No,
Absolutely.
and I think especially for young children and Yinka, you mentioned like the role of arts within education, and I spend a fair amount of time in the New Haven public schools, and I see this across grade levels. If someone just stands and talks at students, they're not interested.
No.
Even though the phones are supposed to be in magnetized pouches, the phones somehow come out. I don't know how they come out, but the students stop paying attention. They're not listening. An artist comes and talks to students about their work and they bring work in,
Yes.
especially if students are using their hands, right? And interacting with the material, they're in it and they're learning that history. And I think that that is so vitally important.
It is so, yeah, it is so, so important because I go into my classes at Rawson School, which is right here in the inner city of Hartford in my community. And we're always hands-on. They love it, whether it's making little quilts, whether it's doing fiber collages. I mean, they get so involved in it. And I give them a history. Like we did a session on Jacob Lawrence. We've done Romare Bearden. And we've done some local artists here. And have them read the history. I give little handouts about who these artists are. We learn about them. And then we do a project around them. And it's so exciting. And they're so absorbed, and this is what they want. They want to do hands-on. I'm not going to just sit there and lecture to you. I'm going to talk about who these artists are, and we're going to do hands-on projects, and it's just wonderful, so fulfilling.
So
Absolutely. I took a workshop with Miss Ed and I loved it.
I want to do one. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's one coming up on the 14th of March.
Okay. Amazing.
At KW.
I'm getting prepared for it now.
I have two more questions, but I do want to ask Shaunda, you are also an artist, and sometimes for artists, it is very difficult to put on that curatorial hat and step away from being a maker and knowing that your work is sort of the center of the show. Tell me about your practice as a curator and why it was exciting to step into this for you. Because some artists do not want to be curators, and they're very explicit about that.
Well, you know what? I mean, just curating in general started for me, I would say about 2017 or something like that. Debbie had invited me to, when she was at the Arts Council, to curate a show. And that was the first time I had curated a show. And if I'm honest, it was born out of like not being included in shows. And so, there was an artist who was having these shows and I was like, dag, this person never thinks about me. And we ended up having a conversation about it. And the person was like, oh, I'm sorry. I really never thought about it like that. And perhaps it didn't resonate. I'm not sure. But it sparked when Debbie said, would you like to curate? And I was like, absolutely. And I just knew that, I wasn't going to curate shows that I was in, but it just gave me the opportunity to create space for other people. You know what I mean? Like, not being included ended up working out for me in the sense of now I get to open the doors. And so as far as this show is concerned, I do not mind not being center stage. I've been overlooked enough to be okay with it. And I mean, nobody wants to be overlooked, but what I'm saying is I'm not so ego driven that I have to be the center of attention. Everybody's work that's in the show, again, I admire, many of the people I've worked with before, I admire them as artists and I admire them as people. And, I learn from them. And, this show has been really, 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 really incredible. Me personally, I'm based in New Haven, but I am a person, New Haven and Hampton, but I'm a person who, if I could have my work on the moon, I would do so. There's no place that I would not really exhibit. And so as a curator, for me, it's no different than forms of design, So pairing this with this, pairing this with that, and then also, being honest, this really doesn't work. And then removing that and putting something in place of it. It's like a puzzle and trying to figure out what piece absolutely fits. So I absolutely enjoy promoting other people. It's a passion of mine. And I have learned over the years while I was struggling to show my own work, where it was like, I, not in a narcissistic way, but that singular mindset of survival, right? Once I removed that and thought about like, okay, let's, I'll have a show with so-and-so, we'll have a show together. Then things change once you took the I out of the situation, and it became a we thing or a collective. You know, now things are shifting, and I have been able to open doors for other people while still struggling, and that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay because again, as a visual artist and a writer, it's all about telling the story, you know, and any opportunity to tell the story of Black culture, period, worldwide, I'm gonna do it. And with this exhibition, I'm really grateful for because sometimes it could be controversial. There's some people that feel like Black history just for Black Americans. I am not on that page. I am not on that. It is like this show was reflective of the diaspora and the stories that needed to be told. And I'm born here in America. I'm obviously gonna always represent the stories of Black Americans, but it's broader than that, and it's much more interconnected. And my thing is this, you know, I'm more interested in the commonalities, and then also if we have differences, which we do, we celebrate that. You know what I mean? Like I'm the person. I'm like, what you cooking? What's that? I'm the person that I remember. I had a friend from Dominica, and we were childhood friends, and we were at the flea market on the boulevard, and all of a sudden she saw a fruit called guinea, and all of a sudden she goes, yeah, and she just screams it out, and I'm like, well, what's that? So she gives me one of these, and I'm like sucking on it. It's sort of like a grape, but not really. And I'm like, this is good. And she's like, you're ready for Dominica. And that was a compliment, and it was effortless, and that's who I am. And that's who I am, and that's who I'm going to remain, basically. So curating is something that I will say, during the show, my personal work has suffered a little bit. I have not been printing like I want to, but this has truly been a labor of love. And I don't have any regrets about that. I'm looking forward to getting back printing on textiles and things like that. But sometimes you have to put something down for a little bit. But I absolutely love curating. I truly, truly do. And because there's so many stories in my head, there's so many things that I want to touch upon, and there's so many things that I want to see, brought to light, positive things, interesting things that people overlook, so I will never run out of a topic, to share. I hope that answers some of your questions. Yeah.
It does. So I want to ask, both of our artists who are here, your wild, dreamy dreams, not just for this show. I mean, hopefully, yes, hopefully tons and tons of people will come see this show and share the news about the show and get their friends to buy art, like all the things, and also share the history and take time to come back and look closely and learn the history, from whatever cultural background they come from. And you're Black all year. And so tell me about your wild dreams for, like this artwork to live beyond Creative Arts Workshop. Certainly this year, so like in the months ahead, but even in the years ahead and in this wild landscape that we're living in.
So first, I've always, and just to compliment Shaunda and what she's said. I've always felt like curating is an art form within itself, because essentially there's so many things that can be considered canvases, right? And what you've done with the canvas that you've been handed essentially is just like I said, it's an art form within itself. And so, in my opinion, you've created a masterpiece with this.
Thank you.
Because Everything that I saw in there was, was breathtaking. In regards to, what you stated and in terms of goals, like I stated, I'm working on the solo exhibit, but my goal with that exhibit and with the work that is going to continuously be added to it, because there is so many stories to be told, is that I am able to take it, to different parts of this country and different parts of the globe, and which is why I was intentional about selecting not just Dutty Bookman and Marcus Garvey and Huey P. Newton, who are familiar names somewhat, but need to not be forgotten. But also, James Armistead Lafayette, like and these individuals, and Zumi dos Palmares, like these individuals who may not be as familiar. And so part of that is being able to just create a connection globally in these stories, and to understand that there is a brother and a sisterhood amongst us who share the same complexion and share those same roots. And trying to mention something in reference to that, because I think that's often a common misconception, is that so many of the leaders that have sort of led movements within the United States of America, and who have been either taken from us or just maybe never met the ultimate goal. A lot of people think that it was simply about here, right? And they weren't, right? If you read the books of Huey P. Newton, if you read Malcolm X's book, like, they were people who were concerned with what was going on around the globe in regards to people of color and marginalized people, and people who just were systemically oppressed. They were about that for everyone across the globe. And so my goal is for my work to, again, tell those stories and to be taken to places, but with the goal of connecting people and being able to say, yes, this leader, this hero is from my country, but his story is so similar to this person from that country, and it sparks the desire to go out and find more, because I'm not going to be able to tell anyone's full story with the exhibit, no matter how I frame it. But my hope is that it sparks the desire to want to learn more and to want to go out there and put in their own effort to learn about these stories. So that's my dream, is that Heroes exhibit grows into something that I'm able to take around the globe, and the exhibits that I have in mind, after that they ultimately serve that same purpose.
I think what I'm trying to do is to speak to justice and truth. Silent voices matter. And I believe that healing begins when people are given the space and the courage to speak and tell their own stories.
Mm-hmm.
I am very busy getting ready for the 250th centennial. I'm in an exhibition at the Fitton Museum in Hamilton, Ohio. And what I'm creating is a quilt telling a story about Sarah and Mary Harris, who were the first Black women at Prudence Crandall School in Canterbury, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. I think it's important for us to know that history. I'm also doing a quilt around Alice Ball, who was a scientist who you never hear of,
right?
Who discovered a cure for leprosy, African-American woman. So I am doing a pictorial quilt and I'm telling their story. I think it's very, very important for Shaunda to look at the possibility of getting an additional grant and taking your exhibition on the road.
I will. I will.
I would love that.
And that's something.
Thank you.
And that's something.
I will.
And that's
something. I told you, Miss Ed's a teacher.
And that's something
I told you that.
I'm going to help you with. That's something I'm going to help you with.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because
I'm going to hold you to it, Miss Ed.
Oh,
I'm going to hold you to it. Definitely.
I think it needs to go on the road. I think I'm happy it had its beginning here. And document as much as you can about
Exactly.
what happened here, and let's
Mhm.
think about writing up grants to take
Absolutely.
throughout the United
Absolutely.
States.
Color it done.
That's
Yeah,
that's my goal.
definitely. Thank
That's my
you.
goal.
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely. I also want to add when you talked about documenting, and I want to stress that that's so important to
Yes.
document everything. And speaking of documenting, Yinka, Yinka is a documenter of documenters. He even has his son filming. So there's this video of the exhibition that's just all over the internet, right? So
Yes.
Yinka shared it with me, and I shared it, and all the artists in the show are like sharing it.
Right.
It's just like, and it's so funny. People have been to CAW a million times, but no one has taken the video that Yinka has, And I'm just like, this video, it just has a life of its own, and
Yes.
it's a reminder of how important it is to document each experience.
Right.
There's so many videos out there that it almost seems cliche, to do it. But to look at Yinka's video is a reminder, no, this is important. You know
It's
what I mean? He does it in such a way that it's just like, this is worth preserving. This is worth documenting. And then to have your son learning the
yeah.
importance of documenting, because
Documenting.
a child, your son is like, he's under 10, correct?
Yeah,
Yinka?
he's only 9.
My
Yeah,
goodness,
and
that's
and
what I'm
he
saying.
and I
I'm
mean
like, you got
he
young
did a good
foreign
portion
Turks
of
over here. Oh my goodness,
he
it's
did a good portion of the
crazy.
filming and the
I love it.
photography.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It was a reminder for me, and it's also a reminder to tweak. I think every artist, many times we shy away from the technical aspect of things, but to tweak our skill set,
Oh yes.
because your son is running rings.
When
No,
He's
you're
it was
running rings around so much. That's for sure. He is, but he's also teaching, and it's like, you know, I think that's so important because that's gonna serve well at family functions. Like that's the skill. Like, I in my family, I have my iPad out camera so much that I've heard relatives said, "John, it's getting on my nerves," and then they'll be like,
yeah.
"Can you send me that video?" So I mean, you already know. I have the video. I have the photos. That's just what it is. But that's how important how important my family is to me. You know what I mean? And so I feel like if we could tweak our skill set
Yes.
and have young people really recognize that, there's so many different art forms out there, but the camera is just as powerful as the microphone or whatever else,
Mhm.
the other crafts, So it's important to tell
Right.
our stories and to
Exactly.
document them for
That,
sure. Yeah.
and look, and that video is it really piggybacks what Miss Miller has said in terms of
Mm-hmm.
suggesting to you, because um people who have seen it and seen it
Mm-hmm.
far, like they're envious that they can't make it to the exhibit from
Mm-hmm.
from the work that we're seeing, right? And so yeah, it was captured in
I
as well,
heard
but
that. Yeah.
essentially it's the work, right? It's the art that
Yeah.
they're getting a glimpse of that they want more of.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was really the intent,
Yeah.
of it is and there are people who have said, like,
Yeah.
Raven, like, oh, I know the area is nice, I'm gonna make a Saturday of it, within the next few weeks. So
Yeah.
and that was the intent, because I just being
Yeah.
so honored to be a part of it. I felt like it was necessary to to share and and
Mm-hmm.
highlight, not obviously not just my own work, but to highlight all of the pieces, or as many of the pieces in it as possible. So yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah. And my son
it's
is
really
he's a young artist as well too, and
he's
so
excellent. He's
yeah,
excellent.
he's actually he's
He's
actually
excellent.
really really good. So he's like, can I get my work in the show in the future? And I said,
Wow.
absolutely. Like
Well, you know what? That might be a concept later on for a children's art exhibition,
Oh my
Or
God. Yes.
Yeah,
intergenerational
yeah,
exhibition.
exactly.
yep,
Intergenerational. Yeah, why
Yep.
not? Why not?
yep.
Why
Let's
not?
do
Why not?
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I
Yeah.
mean, also like not for nothing, Audubon Street calls itself the Arts District, but
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, but are you really?
Mm.
I'm thinking, what about just a takeover of the whole street?
Hmm.
Just saying,
Right.
I'm gonna put it out into the universe, right?
Absolutely.
It sounds like Miss Miller's
Um,
already, she's already got the students
yes,
going. So,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
But
yeah.
I have a teeny bit of an admission about curating. Um, I'm a bit of an unveiler. And when videos first started surfacing, I was like, "Ah." But I'm gonna tell you something. When I thought about it for the second time, and even like I even had a conversation with an artist that filmed some stuff, and I was like, I really didn't want to have every last image up there. And there was some clapback, like this is what it is, you know? And so, you know what? It was a teachable moment for me because what it was that the the enthusiasm, the work had done what it was supposed to do. So
Yes.
that was a learning moment for me. And
Mhm.
so, I'm often under the mindset that if you show everybody what's in the show, they won't want to come. But in this case, this a total opposite experience, you know?
Mhm.
And I'm not going to say I'm going to completely abandon that theory, but I will say, uh-oh, that that's the same thing that happened at the exhibit. So I guess I should abandon that theory. Oh man,
Um,
but my paint is intact, so that's good. So yeah, so it was a teachable moment. It
Mhm.
was definitely a teachable moment. And I can admit that and say that this in regard to the enthusiasm, it has brought me to another level of understanding and also it's really urged me to respect the time period in which I'm living. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
people are they're gonna film, and the current from this exhibition is just so it's like wildfire. You know what I mean? And so it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm just being sharing that moment with you all. Um, Lucy,
It-
really quickly, can I please just list the names of the artists in the show? Can I do that at the
can I
speed of
ask
light?
a final question? And then how about we
Sure,
do that before
sure.
we go out? Does that sound
Hmm.
good?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
perfect.
Um,
Hmm.
so the question I'd love to ask, the show grew out of talking to artists when we were all socially distancing in quarantine during COVID. And
Hmm.
one question I asked is like, how are you taking care of yourself? Because people were not well, like artists were not well. I don't think any of us were. And I think in this moment and in all moments, that question is like how, as an artist, you are pouring into your work, and often you are also working as educators and pouring into other people. So how do you also fill your own cup? Anyone can go.
So you're asking how we, under trying circumstances, survive? Is that what you're asking?
Not just survival. I am always interested in survival, but how
Okay.
do you have practices to take care of yourself that allow you to feel like you are able to share your gifts and talents without being completely depleted?
Yeah. It can be difficult. For me, it can be very, very difficult because it's like sometimes I feel like I'm on call all the time. Um, During COVID, um, I had to really back off because I'm older. I'm probably the oldest person in the exhibition. And I decided to take care of my other artist by making masks. So I made over 2,000 masks that I gave to healthcare facilities. I just gave to artists. I wanted people to be able to take care of themselves because we, as artists, a lot of times don't have the means to.
Hmm.
Sometimes it can be very difficult for us to take care of ourselves. And just having a mask and my telling them this is important for you to wear. I'll never forget that. There was an article that was written on me, and I didn't realize it was a local station. I didn't realize that they had affiliates. So I thought it was just like Hartford, Connecticut, dumb me. Then I started getting all of these inquiries from all over the United States about my mask. And they were primarily artists and nurses. So what I try to do is to, yes, take care of myself, do a lot of herbs, take exercise, and have a lot of preventative measures so that I can continue on. Because it was really interesting when COVID came and things kind of slowed down for all of us artists. I still wanted to create. I still felt the need to create. That's my lifeline. I needed to work. So I worked passionately, but I also thought in terms of how can I take care of my fellow artists so that they can continue on. So you thrive. You have to cut corners, but it's important for you to continue on with your art. I don't allow myself to really stop. I really want to continue on creating. And even though I had been sick for these past 2 weeks, it's been important for me to make some art for myself because I feel better. Creating art makes me feel good.
I agree. 100%. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of, I mean, where she ended is where I can start off, and like that essentially is it for me because I don't have the luxury of being a full-time artist as of yet, and so I do wear many hats during the pandemic. It actually was an opportunity for me to kind of slow down because of how I was constantly, going. I was coming off the heels of owning a retail store for 8 years and had transitioned into tech and had a mobile app that I was in the process of building. I had wrote, illustrated, and self-published a children's book and was on tour when the pandemic hit. And so but a lot of what I was doing, I was working at the same time too. So just running an athletic program as a coach, which I do, like literally all of that. And so just constantly, just like being of service to others, just because that's what's passionate, to me. And yeah, and so then just got an opportunity to slow down. Now, presently, still wearing multiple hats. It is creating that ultimately like is the biggest form of therapy, like
Right.
for me. And so yeah, so when I can't do that, I am not I am not right. So in the midst of it all, once I do that, like that's the most liberating moments and most refreshing moments. But other than that, I do have to do better. I literally wrote the oil of oregano here, as these two queens expressed it before the code. So I wrote that because I'm looking to do well with that because I go and go and go so much.
Yes.
I work out regularly. My rest does need to improve. It is hard, especially when you're trying to create, pieces and you have a deadline on top of, working full time and being a dad. But so my rest has to somewhat improve, but I do work out regularly. I do, eat, well. But yeah, like I said, creating, my work is fulfilling. I work with at-risk youth, and I coach youth. So I'm, just a lot of my life is built off of being of service to the future generation, and so that is really fulfilling, and it's not really draining, to be honest with you, because of just the work, itself. It has its moments, but it's fulfilling, and so it's hard for me to kind of sort of be really exhausted by it. But like I said, just creating and taking care of myself in the ways that you should as you start to age.
Got it.
you know.
Definitely.
Shaunda,
Yeah.
so I would love to hear, for you too,
So,
how do you take care of yourself? And then also I would love, just before we go, pop in with the
okay.
wonderful artists. Sorry?
No, I'm listening. Yeah.
Oh, with the wonderful artists in the exhibition.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. I have my list here. COVID taught me adaptability. There was the opportunity to exhibit uh, during COVID. GAW did one of their Made Visible exhibitions. So I had an exhibit in the window. You know, you couldn't go inside the building, but you could stand outside the building and see the work. And, you know, that was such a scary time to think about the possibility of never exhibiting again, you know, in real time. And then also, I mean, one of the things that was one of the worst experiences during COVID was I had gone to my aunt's house, and her granddaughter came towards me, my little cousin, to give me a hug. And I was a little hesitant. And the children in my family know that, like, I'm the one that, like, you know, I've fallen over them. And so she kind of like was just like, like, I could just tell her feelings were hurt. And to this day, I'm sure she has moved on. She's a preteen now, and she's just not thinking about me. But but during that period, it was like, oh, this is horrible. You know,
Yeah.
it was so horrible. That was the worst aspect for me. But on the flip side, COVID gave me the opportunity to slow down and to just be quiet and to be still. And I had it went a long time without catching it. And then when I finally did, I hate to say it, but it was one of the most peaceful times of my life because I just had to just like take care of myself, be quiet, be still, get
Mm-hmm.
this stuff out of my system, you know, and it had me, you know, on websites, just looking into things and thinking about the future, what I would want to do. And, you know, now I know that, you know, I'm going to have to generate income to sort of do some of the things that I plan to do during COVID. And, you know, I had tried versions of it, but some projects you just need ample funding. Sometimes you just can't do things on a budget, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's down the road. But again, it taught me adaptability, but it also adaptability for myself, but I also recognize in others the creativity was just ridiculous. Like there are people that had these masks that were so ornate, you know, and multifunctional. I mean, these masks were something. They were a sight, and you know that was a part of history. And
Yes.
one of the things that I also loved seeing during that time period was like, you know, I've been on a plant-based diet for many years, and to go into Edge of the Woods and see the shelves just wiped out was a beautiful thing because it said to me that people were interested in taking care of themselves in a way which was different than previous years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was really great that, you know, people were not choosing just one route to take care of themselves. And, you know, I was having conversations that I would have with a few people about, you know, different ways to take care of yourself. Now it was everybody was talking about, you know, herbs and things like that, and it was that part was really beautiful to see that people could go back to Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
So it was beautiful. That part was beautiful. But as for taking care of oneself, I find that art is always my first therapist, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it can be a very inexpensive therapist, and it could be a very expensive therapist.
Right.
But it all, but it always goes back to the art for sure,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. So that's how I survived. That's how I've been surviving. That's how I survived during COVID, and that's how I survive now. If I'm not making art, I don't want to be around myself.
Yeah.
I have to make an art in some way, whether I'm writing, you know, if whether I'm carving, sewing, printing, you know, whatever it is, I have to be creating in some way, shape, or form.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Got you.
If I'm not It's not pretty.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank
So
you.
just before we go,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to, I'm gonna let people know if you're listening, go back, listen to this whole interview because it was really good and rich. And I feel like we could talk for 4 hours, but everyone here needs to go to bed
Yeah.
at some point. So, um, but
Can we do this? Okay.
yep, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead.
want to remind listeners that Alliance Speaks is running a creative arts workshop at 80 Audubon Street through March 12th. I think it could be on view for longer, but I'm not gonna whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
I
stir
think
up.
there's something scheduled to come up. Yeah.
Okay.
Something afterwards. Yeah. Yeah.
And so Curator Shaunda Holloway, I would love for you to, as we go out, I would love for you to share a list of all of the artists.
Thank you very much. Alliance Speaks contributing artists. Boston, Adeniran, John Benoit, Marquise Brantley Sr., Lee Busby, Sherry Caldwell Young, Siobhan Carter David, Robert Cooper Jr., Robert Cooper Jr., Chelsea DeBerry, Ricardo De Paula, DeMarie Douglas, Lydia Douglas, Kayla Hall, Iman Hameen, David Jackson, Betty McGelly, Linda Mickens, Dana Monique, Rory D. L. Moore, Aisha Naila, Yinka Ogunlowo, Thelma Rainey, Brandon Ricketts, Portia Scott Cham, Aria Walker, and Reginald Woolery. I did my best to pronounce anybody's name. Yeah, this is such a great show, such a great show. And I'm honored to work with each and every one of these artists. And thank you, Lucy, for taking the time to interview the artists and to appreciate the work that they've done.
Oh,
Yeah.
everyone should go see this show. It's an incredible show. And then they should go back because unless you spend like 6 to 8 hours on your first time around, you can't it is just so visually rich that it is worth coming back to multiple times.
Yes.
So thank you all so much for
Thank
being
you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you
Lucy.
so
Thank
much.
you, Yinka.
I
Thank you, Miss
appreciate
Thank
Ed.
you.
it.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
both.
So much.
And
Thank you.
have a beautiful evening, a beautiful week, and stay warm. It's supposed to be just frightfully cold.
Yes,
That's right.
it is.
I've
Thank
already
you. Thank
experienced
you.
that.
Feel
That's
better,
for
Miss
sure.
Miller.
All
Okay.
right.
You
Have a
as
Thank
wonderful
you.
well.
night.
Good
Thank you.
night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night.